Hi everyone, my name is Nick, I'm the CEO of Doc, and welcome to another edition of Identi3, a podcast all about identity and Web3. And it's my sincere pleasure today to be joined by Marcel Wendt, who's the founder and the CTO of Digidentity. Welcome to the show, Marcel.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, we were saying just before we came on, Marcel, that you and I met for the first time at a conference, the Internet Identity Festival, I think it was in London, 3 months ago or so. And I remember at that time being like very impressed. You're on a panel there, and not only your kind of breadth of knowledge, but like the kind of vast experience that you've got in the identity space. I mean, very few kind of rivaling the longevity of your career and all the different aspects of it. So it'll be good to dig into that. So without further ado, can you please introduce yourself and also Digidentity?
Yeah, so I'm Marcel Wendt, 60 years old. So in the meantime, a lot of working experience. I'm originally an electrical engineer, and I did some programming on the side. So building Digidentity 15 years ago, I started to create reusable digital identities to introduce that. And that was really in the early days. And combined with a qualified certificate for document signing, remote document signing. So you can sign your documents in the cloud. And that's what we do. It was sometimes fun, sometimes not fun. The last 15 years, it's a hard way to come here, but in the end, we still survived. And I think, the climate is better than ever before for reusable digital identities.
When would you say, Marcel, is out of interest when you first started? Because reusable identity is a phrase certainly I've only become aware of in the last couple of years. When would you say you're actually involved in that, from a professional level? I mean, it sounds like from what you're saying, there's many years.
Yeah. So this because in the Netherlands, they did the project Digidentity many years ago. They did a pilot, and it was a very successful pilot. So that gives me the idea to make it even better than the government did. And to start with it. So that's why I founded the company. I had a company before that that was into the mobile space. So I started up this one. And the funny thing is, we get awarded a contract from the government to rebuild the Digidentity project for them. But then good, because it was a pilot and it was a little bit too successful. So the software couldn't handle the success. So, and from there I started, and then we also won the tender for the UK government, GovUK Verify. Yeah. In my opinion, still, it was a big success, but there were a lot of enemies, political enemies, that want to kill the project. So, after some 6 successful years onboarding 15 million UK citizens, they pulled the plug and they start all over again now.
Yeah, I remember you talked about that. Actually, I remember that rings a bell that you mentioned that on the panel in London. So that's an interesting one that we can actually get into as we move through. You mentioned a couple of pilots there, Marcel, and you're also currently a pilot of the EU Digital Wallet Consortium. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that is? So what's the EU Digital Wallet, and what's the consortium trying to achieve?
Yeah, so the EU project, the bigger project, the EU Wallet is not about an identity. It's about a scheme. So everybody's afraid that we get one European identity in every country. So that after Brexit, a lot of other countries want to exit than Europe. So this is not. It's a framework that it's interoperable between all the countries, and be working on the same standard. The LSP I'm working in the Wallet Consortium by the EWC, that's focusing on travel. So seamless travel with your wallet. And in this case, the technology of the wallet is really decentralized. So today, a lot of identity schemes, even ours, is federated identities. And this is really decentralized self-sovereign identities, but then with a lot of regulations around it. And the travel use case is really book your hotel, book your flight, book your taxi, of rent your car, book your ferry, all with your digital identity without having to deliver again and again your passport or driving license, all that kind of things, including payments. So also payments will be in there.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, it sounds like a really interesting project. And I mean, in terms of like where that pilot's at, is that something that's currently in progress? Is it something that is reaching a decent level of scale? Is there anything more you can tell us about that, Marcel?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things. You have the ARF, the architectural reference framework. That's written by the member states how they want to have where the regulations for the wallet. So the architecture, how the wallet must look like, what technology can be used, and then the pilot itself try to implement that. We had some delay because that reference wallet was not there yet. So in all the pilots, everybody's starting with wallet providers building something themselves, and because it will be based on international standards, the EWC verifiable credentials, or the MDoc for the mobile driving license. That will be the standards used in these wallets. So we already started it. So it was a little bit a slow taking off, but now it's really coming up to steam. And we have some use cases. And the good thing is the relying parties that want to have this tomorrow are a part of the consortium. So it's not only a technical fun thing to do, but there is really clients in the same consortium that really want to have it better today than tomorrow, because it solves a lot of issues for them.
I think that's great as well when you have that, when it feels like less of a kind of homework assignment and much more like something that's actually going to have like practical use. And they're actually driving that inside the process, which must make that very rewarding and probably gives you as a technology provider a lot of feedback about how you can make their lives easier, because that's obviously what we're all trying to do as technology providers. So it seems great that you've got that hopeful immediate use just waiting in the wings.
Yeah, and the fun thing is you're working directly with your competitors as well, because in our consortium there are 6 wallet providers, but we're all working to the same goal. If the pie is big enough, everybody have a big piece of that pie, and there will be wallets in every country. So there is enough for wallet providers there.
Yeah. It's often interesting at the very early stages of a market, which I think we're still fair to say that is the case with, decentralized identity and user-controlled wallets. We are aware that we're going to become competitors at some point in the future, but at the moment, it's in our best interest to help each other, because we're really just trying to show everyone what we already know is that this is the future, but we can only show that if we work together. So, sometimes the dichotomy of working with competitors for the future. How have you found that process? Are you literally building? I guess you're building multiple different types of wallets then as individual providers, or are you all contributing into one?
No, so there are a couple of wallet providers in our consortium, a French one, a Spanish one, Italian one. From Switzerland there is a wallet. The Nordics have their own government wallets. They don't know if they're going to use that in production, but they built it for the project. So they're different wallets, and then we can also show interoperability, so that I can move my identity to another wallet, because the identity will be a piece of code. There will be a verifiable credential, and the wallet is only. Some people will want to have a cheap wallet, other want to have a very expensive, nice-looking wallet in real life, and that will be with the digital wallets as well.
Yeah, interesting. Another big European project. I mean, how is this distinct then for our listeners, Marcel, from the eIDAS wallets and the EU Digital Identity Wallet? Like, are these one and the same things, or are these separate things?
No, that's the same. So now we have eIDAS 1. That's interoperability between the member states about their identity scheme, but that's a federated identity and only for public sector. And eIDAS 2, that will be the decentralized wallet, and then interoperability between all public sectors, but also the private sector is able to use it. So especially in the financial industry, banks, insurance companies are definitely going to use that wallet because it solves their KYC issues.
Yeah. And what are some of the big opportunities? Like you talked about some really interesting use cases around travel that you're specifically working on with the EWC pilot. Marcel, what are the other big opportunities that you're seeing for, I guess, maybe either businesses or like citizens that are coming up as a result of the eIDAS work?
Yeah, I think what we do already have in the Netherlands for 13 years now is scheme e-recognition, where we handle delegation for companies. So employee to government, and there will be a delegation from the company to their employees if they're allowed to do some stuff by government. And that will be a big use case, because in the eIDAS, there is some issue, a business case issue. The wallet must be for free. You're not allowed to ask money for the wallet. The identity credentials in there will be delivered by government for free. A qualified certificate for your qualified signing, the document signing, must be for free as well. So there is no business case anymore, and the business case is really on the business side. So the companies that need these wallets for their employees to do signing, authentication by government or other institutions. So that delegation is a real business case for the wallet providers.
Interesting. Do you find also that you think that companies will be requiring like to be compliant with like eIDAS moving forward, Marcel? I mean, at the moment it's very focused a lot on government use cases and things, but do you find that is your instinct that big businesses will be requiring this compliance in the near term, or do you think this is something that's going to take a while to come through, that we start to see this more actively in like production level use cases and things?
No, I definitely see that. So that's because of our experience that we already have a lot of reusable identities for 15 years now, that we finally seeing companies really are willing to pay for it, because it solves a lot of issues for them. Not only by government, but also every insurance broker in the Netherlands is using it to log in by the backend from the insurance companies. For digital signing, they are using it. So in that space, they already make use of it, and it helps. This program helps because it's now more visible and understandable for companies what it is. What is a digital identity? And since we have Apple Pay and Google Pay, everybody suddenly understands a wallet on your phone. So it's not your bank card in it, but it's your driving license in it, or your passport in it.
Yeah, very good point. We spoke a little bit at the start, Marcel, about the term reusable identity, and I think you've probably been one of the earliest in this space. How do you think reusable digital identity is and going to continue to impact the digital identity landscape?
Yeah, so you have now a lot of providers that the Mytex and the Onfidos that do document checking for companies, and they need to do it over and over again. This wallet will impact that industry enormously, because you have your KYC, your customer bit directly from government on your phone, issued on the phone. There is a trust anchor in that, so you can check it if it's trusted, what's in there, the data. That will impact that industry, and that will impact also a lot of in fraud, because if you're going to accept a decentralized identity, this relying party is first checking if this is a wallet that is trusted. So I think there will be a fraud always, what we need to look at, but for a lot of current fraud, it will be it will solve that.
Yeah. One of the other great things about reusable identity that we see a lot as well is just the user impact as well. I mean, some of the onboarding rates, depending on, or the drop-off rates, I should say, for onboarding, depending on where you look, is it can be, quite often 40, 45% of drop-offs for somebody that's going through that identity verification process over and over again, the frustration with that process, the time it takes, how it's not convenient, and also sometimes it just doesn't work for various reasons. So I think users will be a huge benefit, or will experience a huge benefit from that as well. I guess one tricky part from that, Marcel, is like that we've talked about quite a lot, is the business model is a little bit tricky for that. So the very entity that's issuing out these reusable credentials potentially are not going to be the ones that necessarily see a revenue benefit as things stand. The beneficiary of reusable identity is often the individual, like I mentioned, or it can be another relying party down the road. So that's a tricky thing that the industry is trying to overcome as well, I think. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, it always. I think these drop-off rates is a matter of tuning your system again and again, and we were lucky to have that opportunity when we were running GovUK Verify, because we onboarded 8,000 people a day, and then you see a lot of issues in your system. So we really could tune our system every 2 weeks, every sprint. The biggest challenge is the thin file people, so people that don't have a passport, don't have a driving license. So in the UK, you can sometimes rely on credit reference agencies, but other parts of Europe, it's not allowed to use that data. So we need all to take care of that. Also, these people can join there.
Yeah. And I'm interested to find out, and I'm trying to remember what it was, Marcel. You talked at the start of this about how much you'd onboarded the 50 million Gov Verify service, and then that was culled. Yeah. Are you able to tell us a little bit more about that? Do you know why that, is that just I'm based in the UK, British as well, so I know that we have sometimes an aversion to any notion of like a digital identity or a kind of national ID scheme. But what was the reason behind that? Are you able to tell us like why that service was stopped, given that it was so successful and a lot of hard work had been done to get so many people into the system?
Yeah, so I still don't know.
Oh, wow,
I still don't know why it stopped.
Okay. All right.
They're asking me, we want to build a reusable digital identity. And I said, you have that already for the last couple of years. So, if you stay with us, it will be automatically migrated to the new eIDAS 2 regulation. So you, on the spot, interoperable with the rest of Europe at that moment.
Yeah.
But I think there were some political factors or some other, I don't know what really happened there.
Okay.
So they built it from scratch, and at that moment, only people with a British or Irish passport were allowed to onboard. So okay. Foreign people from Europe living in the UK were not able to onboard anymore. And we all solved that in the last couple of years. So they really needed to start over again. So wow. I still don't know why. It's a big question mark for me, because it was a big success. The whole world was talking about it, except in the UK itself. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of not reassuring to know my tax money is being spent efficiently, but we can maybe move on from that. We've talked a lot about wallets, Marcel, as well, like we've gone through, and you mentioned as well the pilot that you're doing, the EWC pilot. There's 6 different wallet companies or wallets being built. Are we going to end up with, tens of wallets on our phones and devices, or, do you think there'll be one wallet to rule them all? What's your perspective of that market?
Yeah, that's a big question mark. So you have wallets and wallets, and it's really about the security of the wallet, which is very important, especially if you do a qualified signing as well from that wallet. Our biggest competitors, of course, the Apple Wallet and the Google Wallet, and the Samsung Wallet, because they are pre-installed on the phone, they are there. So we will get the same discussion that we had in the past when Europe was fighting against Microsoft to let other browsers installed on your laptop as well, or on your desktop. So not only Internet Explorer. And I hope it will not take that long to have this fight again. That will open up, because the OS system in the mobile defines which wallet will be opened. And that standard is that the Apple Wallet. For Google, there's already some measurement taking place by Google that you can prefer in your settings another wallet that will be open standard. But on iOS, still not. So Apple's always opening the Apple Wallet. So that will be a challenge. So I think they try to play a role in this as well, because they both do already mobile driving licenses in the US in their wallet. The other thing is that I see also Microsoft as a big competitor there, because the Microsoft Authenticator can already handle verifiable credentials. Microsoft Azure ID, or Entra, how it's called today, is installed in a lot of organizations. They even know where you work because everybody put that on LinkedIn where they work, so they can give also employee identities.
Yeah.
So these are the big three where we need to look at. So it will be challenged if there really comes a European wallet.
Yeah.
If that's not taken over by these guys, that will be the biggest challenge. But I think there will be wallets with extra benefits in it, why people choose that. As long as the data in the wallet is interoperable, there can be multiple wallets be on the market.
Yeah. And just so I understand, Marcel, I wasn't aware of what you're saying on the regards to the Apple wallet. So when you're saying that are you saying that it at the moment it would default to the Apple wallet? So is that if I was to, I don't know, search my apps for wallet, the first one that's going to come up is the Apple one? Is that what you're saying, or is it something? Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. Because you call that find internal URL on the mobile to fire up the wallet, and that will then getting the Apple wallet first.
Yeah, and I guess that the EU, I mean, like you say, in the past, have seen that as an unfair advantage that some of these big companies have used to leverage other parts of their business, and you're thinking that's going to be the same thing here, although okay, got it, that makes sense. Going back to then Digidentity, Marcel, what's your current, I mean, do you have, I would imagine you have some use case focuses that you're following up on. Could you talk us through what they are, please, and a little bit more information about maybe who they're with?
Yeah, so our biggest focus is delegation in a business sense. So when employees need to have a power of attorney to do a couple of things, so that will be, we do that already today, but that's in the federated system. So our focus is to decentralize that as well in this ecosystem, and qualified signing, because that's getting bigger and bigger. After COVID, everybody starts electronic signing, but then they realized after COVID that it was the normal Adobe and DocuSign signing were not legally binding in Europe, also not in common law countries. There were some court cases that they need to sign all the documents again. And we've implemented our qualified signing into Adobe Sign, into DocuSign, and some other signing providers. So that will be our focus to roll out our wallet to, especially to companies that use that for employee onboarding, signing their employee contracts.
Got it. And is that service part of some kind of marketplace inside Adobe, or is it a kind of browser extension? Yeah. Okay.
So you can, but in the end, if eIDAS2 is there and the wallet is there, it should be interoperable all, and that's a part of the Cloud Signature Consortium, where all front-end signers and QTSPs in Europe combined together in that consortium and built a standard API for it. So your qualified signature can be used by all the signing platforms that using that CSC API.
Got it. Okay. And Marcel, just to check, I'm not sure if I misunderstood on the delegation aspect that you mentioned that you said is federated with employees. Is that related to being able to sign using your wallet or using your service, or is that something that's separate?
Yeah, so it's you use our current wallet to log in, for example, by the Dutch tax authority. and then the authorization, the delegation that you have, will decide if you're allowed to do VAT by the tax or the income tax. That will be different authorizations, what you can deliver to your employees. So you can delegate that task to one of your employees, and they can all have different delegations or authorizations or power of attorneys, or the name you give it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, so people that are maybe getting their accountants to do some kind of tax return or income tax.
You can also give a power attorney to your accountant, and they do it on your behalf.
Got it. Yeah. Got it. Very good. So you're not only the founder of Digidentity, you're also the kind of CTO, and I would imagine we're all looking at this, that the industry is, even though some of us have been in it for quite a long time, we're all kind of starting to see the market pick up. We're obviously very aware and obviously tracking success and using key performance indicators and metrics and things like that. What are the ones that you pay most attention to as a kind of very experienced CTO, Marcel? What's your big focus for trying to understand the level of impact that you're having?
Yeah, so what's very important for us, what we measure continuously is if the onboarding and if we reach to a successful account at the end, to improve their journey over and over again, but also sometimes, especially when it's come to government services only, people has a new phone. They didn't install the app anymore, so they need to recover. And that's a big challenge always, because you want to be 100% sure that it's still the same person that's put that app on their phone and install all the data on it in there. And that's a continuously challenge and improvement cycle to make that better and better. And sometimes also the improvements of the technology in the phones will helping us. That's the biggest challenge where we have and continuously look at.
Got it. So you're really looking at your funnel as to where people are onboarding into your app. You'll have multiple stages through the funnel in terms of, sign up and then onboarding, and then maybe even how they're using the wallet or if they're using it, and then the people that delete the app. It's that whole process really that you're looking at in a lot of detail.
Correct. Yeah.
Very good. You mentioned fraud at the start, Marcel, as well. And we're all aware of the level of fraud that is currently, it seems to have always been with us, really. Are there any kind of new fraud, schemes that you've noticed come up recently, or recurring themes around fraud that concern you?
Yeah, so deepfake in general. But that's why we're using in our technology no video. We do remote onboarding, but without video, because video is very easy to trick with the deepfakes, and with selfies not. You need to be sure that the picture is coming from that camera from the phone, so that's not injected. So there's a lot of security in the app, what you don't see as a user. But that's most of the time we're working on to keep the app very close, that you can't insert other documents in there and other pictures in there. But we see, especially we do liveness detection directly in the onboarding, and there I've seen a lot of fraud. I think over the last 15 years, around 70,000 fraud cases, people trying to onboard other people. We even see people that were not alive anymore, that they trying to steal their identity.
Yeah, you
see weird things, and I think that will stay. We're not using SMS at all in our solution because that's the most easiest thing to steal. I always tell this, and 2 weeks ago I was the victim myself from a SIM swap. So somebody was able to get in our account from our mobile operator and ask for eSIMs, so electronic SIM. Yeah. So suddenly I had no cell phone anymore, I had no SMS anymore. Wow. The lucky thing is that I had Apple Message on it, iMessage. So when the moment I had a Wi-Fi connection again, I still get these messages instead of SMS. So I was seeing what's going on. But somebody was a credit card fraud scheme, but was using my mobile phone to distribute all the text messages to people. So SMS is not safe.
Yeah. Because I guess even if you're using it for second factor, that's definitely a great case for even using an authenticator app instead of SMS as a second factor. That's a key case there. I hope they didn't take anything too valuable, Marcel, though I'm sure
I was afraid that they want to steal my second factor because I'm aware of that fraud case. So they didn't have. I think they were only able to for half an hour to send messages from a mobile phone before already I disconnected with the mobile operator. But yeah. Some people, I got some weird SMS coming back the days after.
I'm sure
what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad it wasn't it didn't harm you too much.
No.
And going back to the topic of generative AI and its use there, and you mentioned not using video because it is easier to fake than still images. Is there anything else that you bake in? We hear a lot of people in the space actually using AI to fight AI, and so they're actually using artificial intelligence to detect fakery happening. Is that something that you've got your eye on as well, or is there any other kind of built-in mechanisms that you have to kind of fight generative AI?
Yeah, no. So we're using for the liveness detection, the deepfake detection, and the face comparison, we're using AI already for many years. But then it was called neural networks before ChatGPT was there. So yeah, it's we use that already for a long time, and that's improving.
Yeah. And we've talked about a couple already, and I'm not sure if there's any more you can elaborate on beyond what we've already mentioned. But a lot of people that listen to this podcast are very interested in kind of fraud prevention for themselves. What kind of notable prevention techniques would you advise them of, Marcel?
And then for which audience?
For
relying parties or wallet providers?
Yeah, and probably, I suppose so. And also probably for users as well. But yeah, probably mostly for kind of relying parties. Like how would they kind of prevent fraud? If I'm an identity verification provider, for example, like what are some of the techniques that I could follow to try and avoid fraud? Yeah,
so what we try to do as much during the onboarding using the chip from the passports or identity cards. I'm aware you don't have an identity card in the UK, but a passport you have. As long as you can use that chip, that's really reliable data. You can check the trust anchors. So that's already your first step. But the app you were using from the provider, that must really undergo very heavy pen testing to make sure everything is really safe handled in that app, because that will be localized in the mobile, and from there it's sent to the relying party. That's really hard work. That's a continuous job. So that's a weird thing. The wallet must be for free in the European Commission, in the eIDAS 2, but the most development work is done in that mobile app to really get it secure and completely closed for hackers.
Yeah. And do you get involved in biometrics as well? I mean, one of the other fraud prevention techniques that we see when we're speaking to some companies about just now, kind of biometric bound credentials as well, as another kind of form of defense. Is that something that you're looking at also, Marcel? Yeah,
so you have two kinds of biometrics. So during the onboarding, we're using biometrics to see if this person is a live person, not a deep fake, and if the face is the same as what is on the ID document. And you have the biometrics on the phone itself from Apple and Google. And we call that always convenience. It's not biometrics. Of course, it's biometrics, but as an app provider, we can't use that. If we use it, it will make it's replacing your PIN code, and it stores the PIN code on the phone, and that's the thing you don't want to, because in our solution, the PIN code is not stored in the phone, but in an HSM and hardware security module in our platform to keep it safe. So the biometrics on the phone from Apple and Google are convenience, and my opinion, you can't reuse that for biometrics during onboarding or signing documents. Then you need to use the other technology that we provide our own. But that's sometimes, usability-wise, not the most friendly way. But for recovery of accounts, then biometrics come into place again, because then you can re-verify again if it's still the same person when you lost your phone.
Yeah, I think there's always that trade-off, isn't there, between privacy, where it's convenient and easy, but actually the more secure way is something that's a little bit more difficult, and the user experience is not as good. And we're always trying to fight against a balance between those two use cases, aren't we, as technology providers?
Yeah, correct.
Crystal ball time then, Marcel. So looking forward for even 24 and beyond, like what do you see as the big trends impacting upon digital ID, and are any of those one that you're particularly excited about over any of the others?
Yeah, so the European initiative from the decentralized identity, what's really not making it privacy-wise the best solution, because it's really decentralized, but also getting safe, because the relying parties first checking if the wallet is a real authenticated wallet, if they're on a trust ledger. So all the transactions become very secure and safe. So I'm really excited to see what that will go and how fast it will go. Some people think it will take up to 10 years. My opinion is, if the first pilots are running, we've seen that with Apple and Google Pay, how fast it was going when it was introduced in the countries. It was immense. My mother-in-law is 91 years old, and she's using Apple Pay every day. So it's so easy to use. So I'm really excited to see if we have the same usability and technology in identity wallets, it really going to take off faster than we think.
Yeah, that's reassuring to hear. Yeah, and it does make, when I hear people talk about that, and at that same conference that I keep going on about, that where we met at, I think one of the panels was asked, like, when do you see it kind of reaching mass adoption? And it was like you say, it was like 6 years, 7 years, and just left you feeling depressed. But yeah, we know once it hits that inflection point, it really speeds up much more quickly than anyone can ever imagine. So yeah, I'm definitely on that side as well, Marcel. Is there anything, you've been extremely generous with your time. I know you're a very busy guy, so I very much appreciate you taking the time to come on. Is there any kind of thoughts that you would want to leave the listeners with before you go?
Yeah, so for relying parties, really looking to standards, because then everybody is afraid for vendor lock-in. So looking at standards, we have eIDAS1 is a standard that's also almost adopted by the UK in the DITF scheme. Cloud Signature Consortium is a great standard for document signing. If you use that technology and the standards will be becoming better and better, and we all profit from that, both technology vendors and relying parties.
Very good.
That's about it. I think we discussed everything.
Yeah, it was a great episode. Marcel, thank you very much for taking the time to come on. You have a great day.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you.